Builders, it is another wonderful week. Hope everyone is doing well. This is going to be a very fun episode. We're going to be talking about a lot. I'll let everyone hop on before I start talking about what tonight's topic is going to be. But it will be a very good community discussion, community sign up, and kind of just an open dialogue about where to take some of these things. So had some very interesting conversations with Eli and Andrew from Aquabiomics, and we will be exploring the community science carbon dosing project tonight, and basically what it involves, how to sign up for it, what carbon sources all of you use and why, and we'll have a big dialogue about that. So yeah, where's everyone from? Anyone new here tonight? How is everyone doing? How has all of your weeks been? How have all of your weeks been? My week has been very busy. I had midterms, a lot of stuff to do with my research. Busted out went to the analytical lab, GCMS today, doing some metabolomic stuff. Croatia, very cool. Nice to see you. What's up, Wes? Hey, how you doing, S2? S2's got some crazy lighting. Very interesting. He makes his own lights. Good evening, Polyp Pal. Okay. Remy, if you would share my screen. I think I have a tab shared. Okay, so here's how we're just gonna get right into it. No introduction needed. Let's rock and roll, people. We're gonna do a community science project analyzing carbon dosing and its effect on tanks. This is a joint effort between Reef Builders and Aquabiomics. So Eli, I believe, will have a reduced cost or potentially even give the test out for free. There will be 3 testing periods. I'll basically start from the top level of why we're doing this and then get into the controls we will have. And at the end of this, we're going to have a form. So if you feel that you are comfortable doing this after we discuss it, then you are welcome to sign up. We are taking in, I believe, 12 to 16 members for an initial pilot study. And then after that, we will expand to a larger sample size or begin answering other questions. So there's a lot of very specific things we're looking for in our candidates. But if you got what it takes, then you might be able to get on board with some science tonight and help out the community. And we'll probably have something on the Reef Builder side to help carrot and stick that. We were thinking about 3D printing like a little test tube trophy. It says like Reef Builder Science Contributor, something like that you would get in the mail. You'd also probably be like on some Science Hall of Fame thing. So, but yeah, it'll be fun. What's up, Nathan? What's up, Josh? What's up, Jackie? Everyone's tuning in. Okay, so core questions that we want to answer and why we're looking at carbon dosing. First, does it reduce nutrients? Can't spell. Oh my God. Right, so looking at if there is a carbon source that in direct comparison is more efficient at reducing nutrients than others. So we're going to standardize the dose of the carbon source. So basically, vodka will have a higher concentration of carbon per mil than like acetic acid, like vinegar would. But we are going to take that into account and have a standardized dose for every tank. So every tank, when you're adding that carbon source, you'll get the same concentration of carbon, which means the difference will only be based on the actual structure of that chemical. So is there a carbon source that's publicly available that reduces nutrients more effectively? Just because, maybe it feeds different bacterial groups that are more efficient at nitrate or phosphate metabolism. So that's does it reduce nutrients? Which reduces nutrients the best? So that's the first question. Second question, which families increase or decrease in concentration? And is this conserved? So obviously, if you're adding a carbon source to a closed environment, it's much like growing bacteria on a plate or in a liquid culture in a test tube. If you provide them with a carbon source, they will metabolize and utilize that carbon source for energy. And typically, some microbes will evolve to have a preferred carbon source that they make, they work best with. It's their favorite food, basically. They can use other ones, but they're not going to grow as well. So the question is, if we are adding vodka or vinegar or Nopox or sugar or Bactobalance to our tanks, does each of these different carbon sources feed different bacterial families? We think that probably yes, and we have predictions about which families are likely to increase in concentration because of that, but we want to see data. So that's the second thing, is what families increase or decrease in concentration. Now, this could be good or bad. Potentially, carbon dosing could increase some pathogenic families. Potentially, it could increase very symbiotic and beneficial microbes. It could be used as something like a prebiotic if we find the right carbon source. So this is very promising, not just for nutrient reduction, but to actually quantify that and give you the answer of here is the best carbon source in terms of nutrient reduction, but also to say, okay, here's a practical way in which we could begin to modulate the microbiome by directly feeding individual families, which we may want to increase the concentrations of. So it's allowing them to outcompete themselves and to shift naturally through an input rather than eliminating them through something like an antibiotic. So it's a little bit more of an ecological method to control that population. So the carbon sources, which carbon sources? The carbon sources we were looking at testing. Yeah, we're not mixing things right now because that's going to be very hard to test for. So first is vinegar, 5% acetic acid. Second, vodka. So we'll probably have a designated proof. The third one we were leaving up in the air for now. We were leaning towards Tropic Marin Bactobalance because it has very grandiose claims, which I think are probably a lot of BS, but it might not be. If it is true that it can selectively grow the good families of bacteria and not the bad ones based on long-chain natural biopolymers, then yeah, that would be very cool if there's actually a product in the market that could do that. We think that likely it won't, but it does seem to be something that people commonly use. An alternative to Bactobalance we were considering was sugar. So a lot of people use sucrose, it seems like. I put up some posts on my personal as well as the Reef Builders page, and I said, okay, what carbon sources do you all use? Why do you use them? And a lot of people said sugar. A lot of people said Bactobalance. We probably will not test Nopox, which is methanol, just because it seemed a minority of users used it. So we want to really just capture the three primary carbon sources that people have explored. Now, in the future, if there's not really any good data coming here at number 2, we might expand this. So, there's Nopox / methanol. There are, there's combining carbon sources. There are biopellets. Yes, S2, yes. Yeah, so we could mess with biopellets and have biopellet reactors, and there's plenty of different variations in those as well. I've seen people use really weird custom carbon sources as well, to where it's proprietary, weird stuff. But those are kind of the big ones out there that I think are on the market that we could explore. But we thought that vinegar, vodka, and then either Bactobalance or sugar would be good ones. Now, this is where we have the recap, and the format is very useful. What would you all like to explore? What are your thoughts on what I've said so far? If you utilize a carbon source, what carbon source do you use and why? Is there, people often say, I like to utilize vinegar over vodka and vice versa. What's your claim for that? What is the warrant behind why you believe that it's better? So I will open the floor to all of you so we can have a discussion about that, because we are trying to become informed as people that are doing experimental design about where to go with this. Okay, yeah, Coca-Cola. We'll add Coca-Cola just because I want to see what it does too. So we'll see if it actually would increase the concentration of nitrifiers. That would be pretty cool if all the stuff with public aquaria were able to trickle down like that. But yeah, do any of you carbon dose? If so, what do you use? Yeah, that seems to be very common with NOPOX. It seems that methanol is a very, very aggressive carbon source, which can drop nutrients relatively quickly. Because of that, we do probably want to explore it in the beginning. Like I say, it could be that it's either selectively increasing concentrations of pathogenic families, or it could just be methanol has a higher carbon concentration per mil than any of the rest of these. So it could just be that it's stripping nutrients so quickly that you then have that abiotic swing, which causes death. But yeah, many people I've talked to have had issues with NOPOX. Yeah, so like I say, I typically, when I've carbon dosed, I've always added calc in to help offset the pH, decrease that comes with it. I don't think that in this instance, adding calc would have much of an impact to the microbial population because, it's not going to be used. Like the carbon source is still intact. It's just buffering the pH of that solution. Okay, 10% acetic acid. I'll write it down. That would, I can see why that would be more economical just because you've got a higher concentration of carbon. Like I say, we will be controlling for the concentration of carbon between these things, which we're still trying to, tease out as of now. Yeah, when I was, first started out, I didn't really know what I was doing. I definitely nuked some stuff with NOPOX. That has also been a, like I said, that seems to be a very common thing. So we will likely stay away from it right now. I think that these three sound very promising. I would like to see Bacto balance instead of sugar just because of the claims from the company. That would be interesting if they were right and that it wasn't just, they weren't just claims. Okay, so what controls do we have or will we have in place? So we were talking about kind of doing like a paired t-test model. So instead of having a control group where we say these tanks do not have a carbon source, we will do an internal control with each of the different tanks. So you would, let's say we haven't figured out the time frame. We're thinking maybe 2 to 4 weeks potentially. We need to really tease this stuff out still. This is an introduction to all of you about what we're doing behind the scenes and how you can begin to get on board and be considered as an applicant is basically what this conversation is. And also for informed experimental design. If someone has a good idea, then we can begin to get feedback on that and change it before we implement all of this. So first control is it's going to be like a 2 to 4 week time period. I cannot type today. In that period, no changes. So we would like it if even people weighed out their food, right? If you've got a consistent food that you do, weigh it out every day, have basically like an error rate of how much you feel. Like if it's like 12.3 grams instead of 12.1, like mark that down and basically record it. We would also like everyone to record PhospO4 and NO3 daily with all of this. It would be interesting if someone got like an NDOC test from Triton and also followed along with this so they had an organic chemistry profile. So if someone gets involved in this testing and is part of one of the groups and has deeper pockets and wants to really go all out and generate some good data, that could also be a useful day. So our useful thing. So, I mean, we'll basically take this as like a HANA tester, like common, like I'll put in parentheses, like common to the hobby, but, NDOC testing for someone advanced. I really cannot type. So that's one thing. Something else is no UV sterilizers. So that is the one thing that we are excluding from our sample size is anyone running UV. We considered saying no to skimmers as well, but pretty much everyone runs skimmers, so we didn't want to have that strict of a control because we probably wouldn't be able to find many applicants at all. We'll just, I won't do that. I was going to say, if you don't run a skimmer, raise your hand because maybe we could consider that if we have enough people. But UV sterilizers, we think, will likely take out many of the groups, which will increase in concentration or hopefully increase in concentration from carbon dosing. Ozone, we are fine with right now, right? I mean, UV is the big one. We were thinking about ozone as well. At least as of now, we do not have it as a control. So I'll put potential controls. No ozone, no skimmer. This would likely significantly decrease our sample size. Something else we need to do is, so control like carbon concentration. Time of dosing. So everyone will dose the same concentration per their volume of water in their system for the same amount of time. So that's something we need to figure out, still the logistics of that. But yeah, like, and then if you were fine with, if you're dosing ammonia, dosing nitrates, dosing phosphates, we just ask that you don't change those things. Basically change nothing. Do not tweak how much calc you're adding. Don't tweak anything. Feed the exact same amount. No new additions to the tank. No subtractions from the tank. Keep everything as identical as you can with your current maintenance. No water changes at all. And then just carbon dose. So that's what we're thinking. That would give us a relatively controlled profile. We could have 3 time points. So 1 equals before. I'll make this like a subheader here. So time point A equals before. This is your baseline. This is an internal control. So you'll basically be able to see, here is my microbiome before I carbon dose. B is basically after a week or 2. We have not decided how long yet, and that is to see the average variant, or variance in your microbial population over that time. So if you've done nothing to your tank, is there a natural drift in the concentrations of these families? That would give us another kind of control there to see if all of this is correlated to the carbon source, or if it could just be a natural drift in the families, which could happen. Even based on the time of day in your system, some of these populations could increase and decrease because bacteria just grow that fast. The population dynamics can shift that fast. And then after like another week or two of carbon dosing. And this would allow us to see, okay, is there an impact from carbon dosing? So this is establish potential variance in baseline. And then this is our variable that we are changing. So this would answer, a couple different questions. We'd be able to look at carbon source. We would also be able to see if, how fast or how much the microbial population can change in your tank. And this is probably consistent experimental design that we will have going forward with all these community science projects. So this right here, establishing this variance in the baseline population in our systems, will only continue to grow as we increase the sample size and continue to do these research projects. So as of now, that's what we're considering. Now, things we need to do. And this is on our end, not on your end. Math. We have to figure out the standardized dosage. 2, overcoming the fact everyone has different nutrient concentrations. So if we tell you that you're supposed to dose this much, vinegar over a 2-week period, but in that 2-week period, you bottom out of your nutrients, that can obviously cause a problem and could produce some pretty, some outliers in our data, because likely if you bottom out, you're going to have significant shifts in the microbial populations and families. So we want to, basically it's striking a balance between control and like riding the line of nutrients. So some ways we've thought to get around this are having people input kind of like on a Google form or something, their existing or, kind of their typical nutrient concentrations in their system. And then we would form test groups of people that have similar nutrient concentrations. Therefore, when we tell them to dose this much over 2 weeks, either everyone will bottom out or no one will bottom out is the hope. But there'll be a lot of math we have to do, where we need to calculate how much of a given carbon source will decrease nutrients on average. There's some papers about this. And after that, we can maybe work backwards to say, if you have this existing ppm of nitrates or phosphates in a tank of this size, then we could recommend you a minimum dose to where you're carbon dosing, but you don't bottom out. So that's one of the biggest things that we have to figure out, is how to strike that balance to where we can have a successful experiment. And that will be the biggest thing with doing this successfully, is that, and also finding enough candidates. So Remy, if you would right now, I made a Google form very quickly. I will have more later on, but if any of this so far, if you can adhere to all of this, you don't have a UV sterilizer, any of this, and you would like to join, then please fill out this form and we can consider you for it. Like I say, there will be 3 test groups, looking at probably 4 people per test group. So you would be assigned vinegar, vodka, or probably Bacto balance. And yeah, no water changes. So that's also no water changes. Probably like no maintenance. Like, just completely keep your tank stable in that time. Yeah, like I say, we want to avoid people bottoming out because that will likely lead to many of these families starving. Dinos, you'd likely have. I forgot about bacon balance. That was really funny that night. You likely have cyanobacteria. A lot of different populations will change. Yes. So the goals of this experiment is to determine which families could increase and decrease in concentration by adding different carbon sources. So basically looking at these as potential prebiotics that are commonly available. If I add vinegar, can I increase the concentration of, Rosiobacter? If I add Bactobalance, will I increase the population of Vibrio? And that's bad. We don't know these things yet, and they could be very practical and cheap solutions to modulate the microbiome in our tanks in a preferable way. Or we could also have, negative data and see which of these impacts the microbiome in a negative way, meaning we no longer recommend those things for people. We probably want to do it in established tanks right now, solely because they have an established and relatively stable, we hope and feel, microbial profile, to where if you put bacteria in a new system, you're likely to have some instability in those populations, which is kind of manifests as the ugly face typically. So yeah, that's something else I'll add is age of the tank. Probably at least 6 months, if not a year or two. The older the better. It'd be interesting to also get some very old tanks that kind of have old tank syndrome problems. Or if someone's got a deep sand bed, it would be something cool to experiment with. Or someone has a cryptic sump. Their baselines are likely to be different, which is something we can't control for. So that's something we are, getting rid of in the controls. These will likely, each test group will have someone with a 10-gallon, with a 50-gallon, with a 180-gallon, with a 3,000-gallon tank, and they're all likely to have different microbial populations. Our question is, can we get conserved change in those populations only through the addition of one of these variables? And we would likely be able to see that very easily in the data if every single tank, despite the baselines being different, has an increase in the same families. So, yeah, I don't even know if my systems are ready, man. I don't really know if I want to toy around with this. I've got one tank I can do it in, but I'm probably not going to do it in my primary system. Just because what if I choose the carbon source that increases, all the pathogens potentially? I don't really want to do that. Or I accidentally bottom out. So there is some risk in this, and that's something to know about and be informed about in this. This is like an informed consent type of scenario. You could very well crash your tank taking part in this study. We could do the math wrong. I don't think we will. I think the three of us together, Andrew, Eli, and I, will be pretty good and be able to work this out to where we have a very good dosing regime. But still, this is something you're signing up for that there could be a sacrifice involved, but I don't think so. I think that they're both very excellent at experimental design. So, yeah. Listen, man, I need to read books. I don't know anything. I know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know. And there's plenty that I don't know, and I'm learning something new every day. No, we do not offer replacements. If you do this, we will have you probably sign something to say we are not liable in any way. And you will also get a cool Reef Builders 3D printed test tube or something. So that'll be cool. But yeah. Would there need to be subgroups like tank with sumps, tank with refugium, all-in-one tanks? Right now, we're not going to control for that just because we see that as natural variance in terms of all of the systems that exist. So let's say that vodka ends up increasing the concentration of some of the beneficial families with this small test group. We will then go and expand that to a much larger community-wide project where we have a much more diverse array of tanks and see if that trend holds true with a larger sample size. So because we don't want to control for the natural variance in people's systems. So yeah, we decided not to control for that. Let's see. Yes. So basically the idea is during this time, you will change absolutely nothing to your tank. Now there'll be 3 time points. You'll have a before, which allows you to see your microbial baseline. Then you'll have like probably a week or two. We're still deciding on the time frame for this, where you test again, and that would establish any variance that is natural in that baseline. So you could see how much you're, basically in this time period, you do nothing. You feed the exact same amount, no water changes. You don't dose anything differently, same concentrations of everything. You don't add or remove anything, completely controlled as much as you can get it. And you see if the bacterial populations change in a statistically significant amount. So that'll answer one question. If this, which hopefully it will come back and there's not significant variance, that is the hypothesis. If so, you will then have a week or two of adding a specific carbon source, which will be the one thing you're changing in this instance. And then our hope is that this will come back and that there will be conserved differences with each of these different carbon sources. So even though everyone has a different tank, a different baseline, if you're adding the same carbon source, we expect to see the same families increasing in concentration due to addition of that carbon source. And you would have the microbiome tracked over time through these 3 different time points. So that's kind of how we're designing this. Yeah, like say, I've heard a lot of good things about acetic acid promoting the good bacteria. Like, Randy Holmes Farley's been talking about it since like the 90s. We're wanting to see if there's data behind that statement. Yeah, in terms of your question, the next one that's on there, Remy, I can't talk. I about called him Remy. Eli mentioned that he's at least going to have a reduced cost, if not make these free. So that's up to him because it's his company. But I think that he was saying that he may be able to do this for free, and you would get sent all 3 tests for free. So that's up to him, though. Like I say, if there is a cost, we could also look at crowdfunding and doing community organization to pay for all of these tests, because these are things that obviously have been asked for years, but no one has been able to get the data for. And now we have the technology at our fingertips where we can deploy this in a very controlled way with the community and answer some of these questions. So, and this is just part and parcel of what we're working on. We brainstormed plenty of other ideas for community science projects we can do after this. So this is just the first one because it seems like the easiest and most practical way that people could affect their microbiome in a potentially healthy way. It would give people access to microbial management in the form of basically prebiotics that you can buy at any store, and you could begin to maybe, have some good changes down to your tank. But yeah, if you're new here, if you're just hearing this pitch, we have a Google form we made, very rudimentary right now, but it just kind of goes over some of the basics. So if you're interested in applying to be one of the candidates to test your tank, please fill out that form. And at the proper time, we will get back to you to let you know. If you don't receive a response, you have not been chosen to participate. But if you do, then, you'll receive an email probably. We're hoping to get this started by the summer. It might be going by late April, early May is kind of the tentative time frame for this because we have to still plan out a lot of this. We want this to be very good and generate good, reliable, statistically significant data with sufficient controls where we're not wasting money doing the labor and the time taken and the cost of reagents to do these tests. So what other questions would people like answered, though? I've talked for long enough here about all this, experimental design nonsense. Are there other questions that all of you would like to see answered that could potentially be answered in a practical way through future community science projects? I will leave the floor to all of you while I drink some water. And then we could also start to write them all down. So this could be, feedback for all of us. Potential future experiments. One we thought about was skimmer versus no skimmer. There we go. UV. Can it be used in a good way for the microbiome? Dosing Red Bull. Is it the holy grail of carbon sources? I can't spell. Dosing Jack and Coke. Can it solve coral disease? Is it the true cure to coral disease? So we got some joke ones. Does anyone else have any legitimate suggestions? Because these are things we'll begin designing as well in the background. So if someone has a very, very good idea of something we could answer potentially by doing microbiome sampling, then these are things that we can begin to think about and design and roll out very fast and quickly, especially if we get community funding for these things. So this could be kind of like the very first time where we have answers to these questions. Yeah, it would be cool. You know, we really want people with no skimmer to do this. That'd be interesting to have that as internal differences within our test groups. Okay. That would not be with Aquabiomics, but that is one that we are thinking about with, you know, other ICP companies. Yes, daily testing of NO3 and PO4 to monitor to see basically the efficiency and to see if there's a like a one-to-one or a positive linear correlation between one family increasing and then nutrients dropping. So we could identify which families are responsible for dropping those nutrients. Way to avoid the ugly phase. This would likely be similar to the BRS Investigates stuff where they added different initial samples of live rock and live sand, but we could do it with different locales. We could do it in a much better way that could be replicated. They didn't have any replicates for that. It was kind of, it was not good data. It was just like a, here it is, but like, come on, man. It could have been done better. So we can probably one up BRS on that, I'd say. Better BRS Investigates. In parentheses, real science. And yes, that is a lot of shade. Okay. Someone else said, so ICP uptake individually. This is something I was on a soapbox about in one of our meetings this week. We could easily do this. It would take a lot of time and money, but like we could do it with enough crowdfunding. Like my idea was to take sterile water, have a coral in it, and then that would obviously have its holobionts. And then after that, you could add individual known quantities of trace elements. Some of the weird transition metals like vanadium, aluminum, and like, you know, copper, some of the heavy metals people are adding. And then you could see if the microbiome and the coral are directly uptaking these elements, or like if they're just getting uptaken and leaching to the rock. Like there's plenty of places that these elements could be going besides the coral and its microbiome. And that's scary to me because a lot of these elements that are being pushed by consumer or by producers, manufacturers in the industry that are wanting you to add traces, there's not a lot of peer-reviewed data behind. There's not really much data at all suggesting the coral uptake these things. That is not to say they can't utilize them. It is just to say there's not been data that they utilize them so far. It is also to say that it is a known phenomena that adding metals to a system, they get uptaken by rock. So for instance, anyone with a fish system that is treated with copper, you know, like at stores and things like that where they have display systems, it will take a very long time, if ever, to where you can get all the copper pulled out of the rock. So people suggesting we should, you know, dose these things, there's not a lot of data behind it. I don't know. Oh, form submission broken. That's not good. Hold up. Maybe I didn't turn on permissions. That would be very unfortunate. Settings. Responses. Oh my God. I wasn't even collecting the data. Oh no. When requested. Uh-oh. I'm glad you brought that up, Wes. I need to link to sheets, create a new spreadsheet. Oh my. Sorry I'm having to do this on the fly right now, but I want to make sure everyone can fill this out. Send. Okay, Wes, try this one and let me know if it works. I'm sending it to you, Remy. If that one does not work, oopsie daisy. I got to do some thinking because I've changed what I think I can change here. Yeah. Okay, we'll see if that one works. Okay. Yeah, this is the real science, trying to figure out how to get Google Forms to work. Okay, what was Justin's question? Does the microbiome have an effect on species-specific tanks? Okay, that'd be cool. So core symbionts in specific species that can be observed in the hobby. It does not work. Oh, no. That is very unfortunate. Okay. Does it work for you, Remy? Are you able to open it? Let me try to open it. What happens if I open it? It says I can do it. It works for me. Does it work for you, Remy? Let me know if you get a chance. So if I cannot get this to work by the end of the stream, I will post it on Reef Builder's Facebook and also on my Facebook. So many of you already follow me on Facebook, but yeah. Oh, I got one response. It's working for someone. Okay, I don't know. I'll post it on Facebook regardless. Oh, I did it with my Reef Builder's email, so it wants to only give it internally to people that work at Reef Builders. Okay, so it's not a public thing. So that's why it worked for Remy and it didn't work for everyone else. Okay, I will not spend time making a Google form on the live right now because then I would just be like saying nothing, staring at my screen and not engaging with you all or giving you a show. But what I will do is right after this, I will make a Google form with my personal email and I will post in the comments on this video, and I will also post on Facebook and Instagram the link to that Google form. So if you want to sign up for this experiment, then just go there after the video, and I will have that out within like 10 minutes after the video. So that's that's unfortunate. I did not know that happened. Okay, let's see. We had another suggestion. Buffer magnification along some minor trails for dosing. How would you compare it to someone's dose Triton Core 7? Run Triton method, a good approach to dosing. I just use Kalkwasser, man. I don't really do any of the primary methods. I cannot speak on them because I don't have personal experience. I know a lot of people have success with the Triton method, with moonshiners, all of that. But I just, send in ICP. I determine my traces. I dose what I need to, the primary core ones. And I do water changes sometimes still. And I feed a lot. And I do Kalkwasser. And that's how I do it. And then I do sodium hydroxide sometimes for additional alk. But that's some stuff you don't want to play with. And I do ammonium bicarbonate, and I dose phosphates as well. And I add phyto, and I add pods, and I add bacterioplankton. And that's what I do. Yeah, it's great. I could go on for days about phytoplankton, but yes, it is the bee's knees. You should get it. You should add it. You should culture it. It's pretty easy to do once you get the process down. There's many, okay, here's the thing about phyto is there's these people that are sowing like 19 strain blends and dude, it's beating a dead horse. There are several strains of phyto that have different micron size and that have different nutritional properties, but you can get like 5 good species and capture all those benefits. So people selling this, you don't need 19 strains of phyto to meet the nutritional needs of your system. It's cool that people have that many species, but plain and simple, there are some species that are being cultured and have been domesticated that are simply better in most every way compared to other ones. So for instance, a lot of people use thal. Like, dude, thal gets so blown out of the water by phyto or like T-isocrices, like in terms of fatty acid content, in terms of everything. Like thal is like not that good compared to some of the other brown strains. I just get like food grade stuff on Amazon. So it's like, that's been good enough. I've not sent an ICP or anything like to determine if there's like any heavy metal contamination, but I'm just, just hoping it doesn't have it, which isn't very scientific of me, but that's where I'm at. Loving Kalkwasser's effect on the majors and pH, but it keeps calcifying all my pumps. What gives? Yeah, that's something that tends to happen. If you're dosing slurry or dosing quite a bit of it, you'll get precipitate on heat, anything that gets hot. So the pumps are pretty common. So you could try switching some people have talked about like the quality and the grade of the Kalkwasser they use can play a part in that. So impurities can cause that. I don't really know. I've not had issues with it in my system. Maybe it's because of my water volume. Maybe I'm not dosing enough, but you might try to switch brands and see if you have luck there. I don't know if like another quick fix beyond that. In terms of a system like with the carbon dosing stuff, or like in general, or what are you referencing, S2? Yes, I do. Yeah, I add the hydrospace stuff. I like it. There's quite a bit of data that shows that it can be, uptake. If anything, even if the coral are not directly uptaking it, it still bioremediates the tank and it can act to consume some excess nitrogenous waste, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I like to add it. I've seen some anecdotal effects with adding it for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Nanochloropsis is a great strain to start with. It's a great one to get experience with growing. I'll say that. There's not a lot of benefit to feeding corals with nano, which is a hot take. It's just pretty hard to digest and break down with its cell wall. If you're looking at a very easy to culture strain that you'll get a lot of benefit from by adding to your systems, feed pods, feed everything, and it's also easy to culture, then like Tetraselmis, any of the Tetraselmis species are very easy. That would be a good one. Yeah, I can see higher magnesium helping precipitate stuff. Like I say, I am a chem minor, but I am not in the chem world like that. Most of my chemistry knowledge is applied biochemistry. It's not straight up just like chemistry. I really dread and dislike like stoichiometry and redox reactions and that type of stuff. Now, you could have carbon added. Activated carbon would be fine to add in this instance. That's something we've taken into the accepted baseline. Yeah, I just dose supernatant still. Slurry kind of scares me just because if you don't have it slurried enough, I mean, you can always get, small particles of it that can really just like really mess up some coral because of how caustic it is. I posted some videos of them. If you follow me on Facebook, you will see plenty of them. I've got several systems. Many of them right now are being used for experiments, culturing brown jelly and things like that. So I've just got an active infection I continue to feed. So I've got samples. Water changes. If you had access to salt water from the ocean, would you prefer that over Red Sea, Blue Bucket? Would you use bucket salt to maintain those city parameters or use salt water? If I had access to the open ocean, I'd use that. I would filter it heavily, though. I would definitely put it through some carbon. I would put it through like very low micron filtration to try to there's viral particles, right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff you got to do if you're messing with ocean water, but like a lot of the best facilities that do, like coral research use flow through tanks just because it's one less thing to worry about. So, I mean, you're likely getting a more robust and natural source of trace elements compared to any commercial salt. It's not even just about one particular brand, but like, I'm sure that there are trace elements or other compounds and things that are not in some commercial salt mixtures that are still found in higher or better, more ideal concentrations in the open ocean. It's just making sure you don't add any of the bad that comes with the open ocean. Dude, I buy like the stuff from Walmart, like the pickling stuff. Like, I'm so cheap, man. I've heard a lot of good claims about the C-Chem stuff. Someone, I think it was Telegram or someone, sent in a bunch of ICP tests, like the Oshimo ones with the different Kalkwasser brands. And I think all of them had heavy metal or trace contaminants besides C-Chem. But, dude, I just use the Walmart stuff. Yeah, like calcium hydroxide from Walmart in the pickling aisle. That's what I do. I'm cheap. Yeah, I think the East River would be fine, man. I think that water is clean enough. You'd be good to add that right to the system. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about Captivate as well. Like I say, I don't really have a preference on that stuff. Now, in terms of the biological products, I'll talk all day, but I just, as with everything, I'm skeptical about stuff, but I also have cost-benefit analysis in my mind, just due to my own budget with keeping things. So if there are things based in data I know I can do, then I will spend the extra cash. But, otherwise, if I don't have an answer to it, I'm probably going to go with the cheaper option if it's something that I know I can safely get away with. So in this instance, like, there's not really no one's nuked their tank with missed wages, right? So I'm like, I'm going to buy that. But, as we continue to do community science, like we're hoping to push, like I talked about tonight, maybe we will come across and generate some data that is very profound that could, inform people to buy different products. So that's kind of where I'm at with the chemical stuff. Where are you dosing it in your system? Because, yeah, I mean, I've got mine you got to have it very high flow so it gets diluted. If you've got it somewhere to where it's not a high flow region, then that could lead to localized precipitate pretty easily. Is it all of your pumps across the system or just a pump downstream from where you're dosing? Because that would be that could be a practical solution of just moving where you're dosing, the dosing line is. If it's the whole system, though, then yeah, that could maybe be looking at a different calc. Okay, all pumps. All right, yeah, that's probably looking at like a different calc source or something. I'm sure there's someone that's more informed about chemistry that could give you a better answer than me. Like I say, just straight up chemistry, I don't like that much. I know enough to get by, and I know all the application stuff to the biology side of things, but yeah, I'm not Randy Holmes Farley by any means at all. But yeah, no, I've heard Captivate's great. I'll probably get some from Meckley and test it out here and toy around with it and see if I have any anecdotal differences I can report on. But I'll give it a shot for sure. I like trying new things for sure. No, I'm not in the SPS. I'm broke as hell. No, got a Walt Disney, and then my AC broke. It was doing well. I tried SPS again for the first time in years because I got Chris Cap was kind enough to just give me one, so I don't have to buy it. So I put it in. It's growing. It started getting, some longer branches, and I was like, finally doing SPS. I'm about to go balls to the wall, get myself a rainbow splice, do a home wrecker, and go crazy. And then my AC broke, and my tank temp spiked, and then it died. So then I got sad and discouraged again, and I remembered why I have not invested in SPS. I want some very, very badly. I don't think they're legal right now. They are not on CITES anymore. So you would have to source one from someone that farms them domestically, I believe. But yeah, no, I've been wanting one for a very long time. They're very attractive, very cool, very alien, Like you see that it's like some primordial, like looks like some Cambrian explosion type of life. They're so cool. That is what we are trying to answer right now. I don't know. No one knows that. No one can tell you that because no one has data. We are trying to generate that data. So if you have just started watching after this live stream, you go back and watch the first 30 minutes and you will see what we are doing here. But we're doing a community science project to answer that question exactly. Josh, the acrofrag you gave me at Reef Stock, the acrofrag you gave me at Reef Stock stayed in the Tupperware container, and I'm like, it'll be good. I'll do a water change every day, and I did, but it did not make it home. It served as a very good sample for the lab, though, and I was able to isolate some cool things from it, but it got donated to science. The Hydnophora made it a little bit longer, but it did not make it either, which sucks because it was nice. I was like, this is cool. I'm like, I hope I can keep it alive, and I was not able to keep it alive, but it did not die in vain. It did not go to waste. Yeah, that's Telegram for you. Telegram sent off a couple new tests today, I believe. So he messaged me and he's like, guess what, bro? Yeah, see, that's the thing. Yeah, AZA. That sucks. I mean, AZA accreditation's cool, but it'd be really cool if you could take frags and stuff too, though. Yeah, like I say, I don't think they're legal anymore because I was asking Joe Caparata about it at Reef Stock, and he's like, yeah, man, I think they're off CITES, which makes sense because I've not seen one in several years now. So, but God, I would love to get one. I'd love to try to keep that species. I think that using bacteria plankton, we could really have a lot of success with them. What do you all feed them at? Do you work at the aquarium? What do you all feed them there? I guess they can probably take in larger micron-sized food, don't they? They've got pretty large polyps. Like they could probably just eat like brine, like baby brine, I bet, and live off of that fairly well. Our pods. Yeah, that's probably something we could do for sure. There's a lot of crowdfunding stuff that we are considering for sure for future projects. Like I say, especially if Eli is going to be donating these tests, then yeah, we could just do some crowdfunding stuff to do all of this. Mysis supernatant is like supernatants of any culture is like the underrated awesome food, dude. Like I'll just take the pod juice and I'm like, this is so nasty, but something eats it. I guarantee you something eats it. That'd be cool. Yeah, we'd love to see it. Well, Remy, I was planning on going to the Pacific Northwest sometime this summer. So it sounds like everyone should tag Raj in the chat, and we should get a tax write-off to have that trip. Is what it sounds like. It sounds like that Raj is now paying for vacation. Thank you, all of you, for reading our articles, for tuning in to this live stream, for liking and subscribing. It allows Raj to pay for these trips. So is it freshwater, saltwater? Like what are they planning expansion wise? Are there any exhibits you can talk about or that have been discussed? We just need to have a zoo, like aquarium tour. Yeah. Let's go to the Georgia Aquarium, and we're in Chattanooga. We can just drive right down to Atlanta. You can see the whale shark. I want to see what they feed that thing. How much food do they have to add to that tank every day to keep a whale shark? There's like 2 or 3 of them. Keep like 3 whale sharks alive. How much food do you have to have? We could go to Australia. All right, yeah, where should reef builders go? Where do you all want to see content from? We got like 9 minutes left. We'll let the last 9 minutes be the pipe dream, the tax write-off pipe dream trips. Where should reef builders go? Yeah, Remy's going to Australia. I don't know what the phosphates look like in the whale shark tank, but I'd imagine that they're pretty high. Actually, I don't know. That might be a flow-through system. Might be, I'm sure they got sulfur reactors and stuff for nitrates. I wonder how they manage phosphates, though. I got to think about that. I don't know. That'd be a Raj question, probably. Australia, Indo, Raja Amput, man. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but I would love to go there. Sunshine Coast, that'd be cool. I want to see the Galapagos, too. That'd be cool. No, yeah, spam the chat. Do it. This is what this is for. This is for an open dialogue. I did see Mr. Saltwater is there. That's very cool. We should tour his tank, Remy. His new system, this drop-off is gorgeous. Super impressive. I don't even know where he lives, though. I don't know. I don't even know Mr. Saltwater's name. I feel like that's bad. I feel like I should know who Mr. Saltwater is. Vegas would be cool. Ooh. This is something I'll be writing about relatively soon, and I will be doing some tests on. Not bacteria, but fungal. Yeah, so something no one ever really thinks about. Everyone over here, everyone in the industry right now is so captivated by the bacteria. But let me tell you, people, there's a whole microbial world, and there's a lot that I haven't talked about just because it's a crazy world to think about. You know, people are still struggling with the idea of the microbiome and good and bad bacteria and things. So if I'm gonna go out here and produce 90 articles about marine fungal stuff, people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, what do I do in my tank now?" And that's we gotta adjust to that. But yeah, I think fluconazole is likely taking out a lot of very beneficial fungal symbionts. So some of the fungal symbionts are more important for external immune responses than even some of the bacterial ones. There's also some very interesting species that are, generalists that are associated with a lot of different coral that can aid in sulfur cycling. So yeah, that's for 2026. We'll get on the fungal train then. I gotta inform and get everyone on the bacteria train, and gotta make it public knowledge first. Then we'll talk about the fungus. But yeah, fluco is probably bad in that way. It's not going to affect your bacterial populations very much. I don't think at all. I don't think it has any type of bacterial cytal or static effect, though. Oh man, that would be awesome. I've got like a PADI open dive certification, but I did it in a freaking like lake in in Arkansas, dude. I've never been diving in the ocean ever. I've been snorkeling in the Caribbean, and that's about it. I really, really would love to go to the Indo-Pacific or the Red Sea, or like Madagascar has reefs that are beautiful. I really would like to see the world some point in my life before they're like probably all gone, which is the scary reality of where we're heading. I think it would be awesome to dive on all those things, to get like deep water or Arctic dive stuff, to see like the freaking Scandinavian like NPS cold water reefs. I just really would like to see all of those things. I can't remember where it was in Arkansas. It was like right by the Ozarks, though. It was like northwest Arkansas. It's like a group of lakes. Ben, I'm going to have Remy send a link in the chat, and that will be a lot of the explanation about why that might happen. Let's see, dysbiosis and the pathobiome. This is my favorite article to send to people that I've written, because it's something not a lot of people have heard of, but it is basically how all of this works. So Remy is about to send that link for you, but basically the short answer is likely the coral that died was more susceptible to stress, and likely had kind of a carrier state in its microbiome, and therefore entered a pathogenic state much more rapidly than, I sent the wrong link, god damn it, than a healthier coral. So the article that Remy is sending is kind of a overview of the entire pathway of how coral disease works and how it's tied to abiotic stress and swings in a tank. Also, if you tune into Reef Recap from last week, I give a whole damn dissertation about this stuff and have like a lot of data. It was not Table Rock, no. Yeah, it was kind of creepy. There's a bunch of like sunken cars and stuff. A bunch of huge channel cats we saw. A lot of live coral exhibits will also have mangroves and inshore. That's cool. There was this store in Kansas City. I don't know if they still have it. I haven't been there in a very long time, but it had a giant like paludarium tank with like full grown mangroves, and like the beach just went off and tapered off, and it was brackish though. It, like, you know, mimicked a mangrove swamp. So they had like some of like the huge like Pacific, like not the Indian dwarf mud skippers, but the big chunkers, like this big, like foot long mud skippers in this system. And they had a bunch of like green spot puffers and stuff. And they were like, yeah, anything we add, the mud skippers eat. Like they were just eating the other smaller fish. It was crazy. That's awesome. Yeah, seeing the Red Sea would be awesome. It would probably just be dosing via a pump would be what we're looking at. So instead of having a reactor, we would just say, here is the concentration you need to add daily. You can hand dose it even, but it might not be as accurate. So having a pump to say, here is the dose per day seems to be a pretty good way to control that, I'd say. Is this on the website for that aquarium? Northwestscapes. I'll go check it out after the live stream. Tie in with Aquashella in the fall. What are you referencing, Gary? Man. Yeah, well, God, it's like already been an hour. Didn't even really feel like we talked about anything tonight. I guess I've just been talking the whole time, though. That's how these things usually go. But yeah, I will make... Daytona has an aquarium. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, we're going to be at Aquashella anyways. We might as well go see it. I'm totally down to go see aquariums. It's always really fun. No reason not to if you're in town. But yeah, if you're new here, then please make sure to tune in next week. So this is something we do every single Thursday at 7:45 Central. Sometimes we'll go for like an hour. Sometimes we'll go for like 2 hours. Typically, I will announce ahead of time on my personal Facebook page or on the Reef Builders page what we're going to be talking about. So, you know, it can range anywhere from I'm getting paid to take shots of Fireball and talk about pizza to I give you a very in-depth PowerPoint about dimethyl sulfonopropionate and its role in coral disease. So we're kind of everywhere here. If you're new here, we kind of do everything. Very serious and very lighthearted content. And the goal is to just have a conversation about reef keeping. Awesome, Jason. Yeah, those octos are cool. Those are unique ones. I've got a bunch more. But yeah, I got them from a guy. I bought his tank, and he had been growing them for 15 years. So those things have been aquacultured for 15 years, which is like almost as old as me, dude. Like, that's crazy. Like, they've been around in a tank 3/4 of my life, essentially. So yeah, when I got those from him, I was like, that's awesome. Like, the flesh is really long. Most of them had pups. They were a pretty interesting color too. So I'm glad to hear that. The really big head Australian ones. So great to hear, man. But yeah, if like I say, I'm going to have a link to the Google form that should work this time on my Facebook, on my Instagram, on the Reef Builders Facebook, on the Reef Builders Instagram, and in the comments on this video once it's done. So if any of you were very interested in being a member of one of like the 12 to 16 people that are going to do the initial pilot test for the carbon dosing, then please apply through that link, and we will get in contact with you if we think that you meet the criteria that we have established. And, if you do it and you do the data and you take it seriously and you ball and you help us out, we're going to help you out. And you're going to get like a free 3D printed thing, we think is probably what we're going to do. You'll have like a trophy in your house to be like, I did science. So, yeah. But, we'll probably call it a night tonight. We've been going for an hour. Have a short night. I got a lot of stuff I got to do still with school tonight. Been a busy week, but I appreciate everyone tuning in. I hope you had a great time tonight on this episode of Reef Recap, and I hope you all tune in next week. I think Remy, if he has the link to it, he'll send a link to next week's episode so you can actually mark that you're going to attend, say that you're going to be there, and then you'll get notified of when these happen. So, but it's 7:45 every single week, Central Time, because I'm in Kansas. But I appreciate everyone tuning in. So thank you. Have a great week. Hope it goes good. Hope you guys have a great week next week. And see you next week. Hopefully we can get some data.